Just a few words on this terrorist attack today at London Bridge. The latest information is that two members of the public have unfortunately died and 12 people were wounded. Whether those two people who died were among the 12 who are wounded or whether it's 12 wounded on top of that, I don't know. Um, I think that this was being treated as a terror incident from the outset because of the location. I mean, most of the violence in London is from gang violence, the stabbings that we've seen of young people in London. But I think this was because of the location that it was perceived that way. I think the police were right to say they were treating it as terrorism before further details emerged, and they are now formally saying it is being regarded a terrorist incident. I think that was the right approach because words matter. Words do matter in these sort of situations. Um, the attacker was shot by police. I have to say they done a great job from what I can see. The anti-terror police, and massive respect to the civilians who also apprehended this guy. There were reports of a fight. For a while, I thought, okay, maybe that means it's gang related, but then reports emerged that he had been wearing a fake suicide vest. So anyway, those are the details. This is still emerging. Details are still coming through. Um, that's spare a thought for those people who will have been hospitalised and possibly in serious condition. The death toll is true, but there may be people with life-changing injuries. So possibly between 12 and 14 victims altogether. So a major incident. I think that since the London bombings in 2005, terrorists have been using different techniques. I think bringing a bomb into the London Underground, for example, is no longer plausible as a method. So what we're seeing is more so-called lone wolf attacks. Whether this guy was working as part of a cell or a lone wolf attack remains to be seen, of course, but it would appear that he was on his own. Um, I know that during the coverage of this, one analyst was saying that because the guy has been shot, the IPCC will immediately be involved. I think the vast majority of the public will support counter-terrorism officers in this sort of situation, where it's a clear-cut life and death situation. Um, so, it would be a travesty if officers involved in this are dragged through months and months of legal procedures when they have saved lives. I think that would be a travesty. I think common sense has to apply. I support the existence of the IPCC. IPCC, it's important, but Independent Police Complaints Commission, if you don't know, I think that actually go through another acronym these days. But anyway, it just shows that these bastards are going to use any techniques. Um, Bombs are an obvious, from a terrorist point of view, are obviously risky because they can be detected. Vehicle attacks, I think, are very difficult to sort of prevent because you can't just ban every vehicle, although there's obviously limitations in central London. But you know that's a much harder thing to prevent, and it can cause mass casualties, as was seen in the attack in Nice in 2016. Um, but I really think if this was Islamist, which seems pretty plausible, um, it's just a reminder that we're really in a long drawn out thing. I mean, for well over 20 years, Londoners went through the IRA's mainland campaign, which was only a fraction of what people in Northern Ireland went through. But they got used to that as a way of life. Attacks every few weeks. I think we're in a situation where we're seeing something similar. I do wonder if the Home Secretary Priti Patel publicly announcing that the terror threat had been downgraded was that wise. I mean, maybe that's something that should be done kind of quietly behind the scenes, because that surely would send out a message to terrorists that the security services, the guard is down. I'm not saying that is the case, but that's the perception it would send to terrorists. So I think things like that, the authorities need to be careful about announcing that. I mean, giving terrorist information. Um, the public can, I suppose you could argue a terrorist could just look up the Home Office website as well, so maybe it makes no difference. But anyway, it's sad that two people have lost their lives. Massive respect to the civilians who tackled this guy. They should be in line for some sort of bravery award. There was a businessman and others who tackled this terrorist, so I hope they get recognition. And I believe the counter-terrorism office has done the right thing. They took away a threat, but unfortunately, two people have also died, and we don't know how seriously injured the other people are. Um, for one man to attack 12 people, it must have been a pretty big weapon. I don't know, or just a rampage sort of attack. So it's troubling. And incidentally, there was also an attack today in The Hague, in the Netherlands, at a shopping centre in The Hague. Whether that's related or whether it's just a coincidence that may be a regular crime, I don't know. But I think the West was sort of expecting more attacks after the death of Baghdadi, if this does turn out to be Islamist, and I'd be surprised if it wasn't. So it's not surprising, unfortunately. Unfortunately, this is going to become the norm in London. Possibly this sort of thing's going to happen every few months. It is significant that there wasn't a major attack throughout the whole of 2018. I think there was one incident in Manchester, but nothing involving fatalities. So I hope we're not about to see another wave of attacks as in 2017. But I have to say, everyone involved in this, huge praise to the counter-terrorism officers and the brave citizens. Maybe more people would have died if they hadn't acted that way.